Productive Pastor 130 Task Blockades. Do you ever feel like you have this blockade to tasks that you know you need to get done for your ministry at workday? Chad Brooks. I am a congregational strategist here in Louisiana, and I've stewarded this community called Productive Pastor for over the last 10 years, which is all about helping people that work in churches find healthy ministry through strategic productivity. And the thing is, we have the same productivity problems that people do in other jobs. It's not this unique thing. Now, some of the stuff we have to work with is different. Like, a lot of us are writing sermons every single week, or we're having to juggle managing crisis with the folks we're caring for while we're also managing a decent-sized church or an organization. Those things are unique, but so much of the productivity things we actually have to figure out are just the exact same productivity struggle that other folks have in all sorts of other jobs. And I've been thinking this week about this whole task blockade thing. My wife is traveling for work. It's just been me and the dog at the house. And I went into the week thinking, man, I can get so much stuff done. I can get so much really good creative work done. I can communicate with folks really well. I can prep for this retreat I'm leading next week. I'm writing my second book right now, and so I can probably hammer off at least a chapter and a half, and I can finish a book I've been reading for the last 3 years. And while I've gotten a lot done, some of the other things I want to do, it's just like it hasn't happened. And I realized what was going on is because I had a couple of different unique things going on that were keeping me from this task. And I realized this is actually pretty normal. And so what I want to talk about really is two stages we go through when we're in a task blockade. The first is an emotional stage. Think about why we might not be wanting to do something, why we might be procrastinating or putting it off, that sort of a thing. I've read a lot about procrastination, and what's really interesting about procrastination is it doesn't mean that you're lazy. Normally there's some sort of a fear complex going on. So sometimes the first level of the task blockade that we're dealing with is literally just that. There's a fear emotional response. Why am I not doing this? I had to send a lot of massive emails to people this week. Not the email list that I normally write. I do write emails, so you can subscribe to them down below. But about people for this retreat that's coming up, for both the participants and also the folks that will both be leading it. And I realized I always put off emails because I'm scared I'm going to make a mistake. I like to work quick and fast, and I had to train myself over the years to triple check anything involving specific information, dates, times, location. Is the link I inserted actually going to the right website? Did I attach the right file? All of those sorts of things. And that also works into my whole emotional response because I don't like to make mistakes. And I don't like to make mistakes because when I make mistakes, it makes me look like I'm sloppy or I don't know what I'm doing. I spent thousands of dollars in therapy realizing that one of the primary emotional motivations of my life is I'm terrified people are going to think I don't know what I'm doing. And so when we pull back from this task, because I had to do this big, huge, massive informational email, I had to do 3 of them this week. Normally one is an emotional struggle. 3 of them, at least 3 of them in 1 week. 3 at least buckets of people I'm communicating with, and I'm in the in-charge situation. I realized I was putting off doing these sorts of things because I was fearful. I had some emotional response. So that task you've been putting off, when you have a task blockade, the first thing I think is helpful to do is to just simply identify where is that emotional response coming from? Where am I procrastinating out of fear? Where am I situating myself inside of this? And I could probably push through it by just naming the fear and then realizing, okay, what can I do? Where inside of my agency do I have the ability to make sure that fear is not true? That's the first layer of this, is the emotional response. And the next piece is the technical response. A lot of times there is an overlap between emotional and technical. But what's good about the technical is once we've identified the fear, we can do the work to make sure the fear is a non-issue inside of the task. For me, this means triple checking stuff like crazy. And sometimes I still get it wrong. And if it's a really big email, I'll send it to a friend of mine first saying, hey, look over this real quick. Tell me if there's anything that we need to do. I'll also sometimes just write a Post-it note and put it on my computer when I'm writing an email like this that says what, when, where, how, to make sure I hit all of those details. At one point in time in my life when I was doing these sorts of things, when I was full-time in a local church, I literally had a format saved in Evernote that was my template for any sort of mass email, and I had bullet points in the template: what, when, where, how, why. And so I would fill those things out and then write the email. So I literally had a what, when, where, why, how at the top of the email. We can find a technical thing, or sometimes we're putting something off because, we might not have the thing around. Amazon might not be able to deliver it for a few days, or we're going to have to, divert and change what we're working on at that moment to drive to the store. One of the ways I get around this is I keep like the things I need for work, like the boring stuff, paper, Post-it, pens, all this kind of stuff. I just have a stash now. I love a video of Adam Savage on the Tested channel where he talks about how he pretty much has an entire hardware store at his shop, so he does not have to get out of his rhythm as he's building something. For me, I've got a dad burn Office Depot here in my office because I've realized the technical side of it is, well, if I just make sure I always have it on hand, then I might not get hung up inside of that. So if you've got a thing you're putting off, if you're dealing with task blockade right now, think through that paradigm. Where's this task blockade emotional? And how can I help solve this with realizing what technical things are in place? I'm Chad Brooks. If you want to get emails about ministry productivity, that sort of thing, just click on the link down below. You can sign up. I send those. I try to do it bi-weekly. But thanks so much for hanging out. We'll see each other around the internet.